And I'm calling the meeting to order in the Arrow Mountain Room. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 18 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov, G-O-V. Okay. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the July meeting.
I have emailed them to you
Oh, you did? When did you email them?
this afternoon. Our internet was out over the weekend.
Okay, well, I think, did other people get it?
No,
I emailed
did.
it to you.
I didn't check.
Oh, you only emailed it to me? Okay,
Yes.
well, let me see if I have
I
it.
need to create the, like a chain, like the group.
The group contact
Okay.
list.
Yeah, I've never had to
I-
use a group contact list, and so I haven't, that just was,
I have to do that too, so.
I
Maybe this
was,
is it. I got one new, okay, here we go. Oh, no, that's your answer to my question.
no, it has the file attached.
Oh, the file is no, I don't, there's no attachment there.
It's attached. It
Further
says,
down, maybe?
Oh, okay. Okay, no need to print. Ah,
and I am more than open to
Well,
feedback
that's an
on
agenda, that's not the minutes.
minute taking and
I
writing up
can't get
again.
an agenda.
So
I
go back to the original. Can
Do you use a Mac?
Yes, but it should be
This-
in Word.
Okay, Steve at times sends me something, and the Mac, it shows up at the bottom, but since I use a PC, it doesn't show up at all.
Okay, well, if you, wait, try closing,
It says the subject is the agenda. Is that the correct email?
No, it's,
Just-
the subject is the agenda because she's responding to something I sent her.
but
she's
close it.
Okay.
Because you're currently trying to send me an email back, and you want to go to wherever you just had my email up.
Do we,
If there's an attachment,
No, that's
there's
not
gonna be a
yours.
little paper
Yeah,
clip
there's-
on the
you-
side.
I know, yeah, and I don't
Go
have
down-
it, so.
So go down, see how there's like one from Neil?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have to look like that.
I know what it have to look like, but the trouble is now, yours has completely disappeared when I closed it.
Can you go to all?
I need a network key for that town.
Shoot, this unfortunately has been happening.
Town program, maybe that's good enough.
It is all, and I can't go up anymore.
Unread? That says today.
Yeah, but there, I'm not picking up
Uh.
anything, it would be an all, so I don't know what happened when I closed it. But the fact of the matter is, there was no paperclip and there was no attachment.
There was a little paperclip.
Do you have a copy of the minutes here that we
No, I
can-
just don't,
we
like,
can't
I don't
read
print
then?
it, and so I emailed it to her, and so it should be in your email.
Wait, okay, here.
There you go.
I see the paperclips off on the side, but
Yeah.
where, oh, okay,
Up there at
now
the
it comes
top.
up, okay. Okay, so let me move this up. Maybe I'm better off if I just open this up, and then we don't have to look at all the other junk. Okay.
So you didn't send to us. I finally got my email open, but it's not there.
That's why I don't bring mine.
Ah, shoot. Gotta stop those. I'll close Outlook after this.
Is that correct that I nominated you, Suzanne, and then, but just for a 6-month time period?
So you nominated me, but I think
I was gonna
Charles
cover when you
probably-
couldn't make it.
Charles probably suggested that I just start with 6 months.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think I can go back and edit it and say that it was recommended that
Yeah,
it's for
that's-
I don't
6 months.
recall if I,
That-
I think
but
that's
it's
how it
basically,
wound up,
it's
so
the substance
fine.
of what happened, and
Yeah.
that's what happened, so.
I would add Neil's last name, but I'm not too sure what his last name is or what position he holds.
Andres, Andres,
Andres.
yeah, and he's the director of the Department of Public Works.
Okay, perfect.
I'm not quite certain. I don't know if anybody else knows what that means. I suggested a running history of wastewater in Eastham fact sheet. I had done that history that I distributed, but that sentence doesn't mean anything to me.
It
but-
makes sense the way you said it, and that's an issue I have to bring up when we look at website content. Those
Okay.
histories are valuable.
Okay,
how did you spell Neil's last name?
Andres. You can find any of the, well, you'd have to know he was the Department of Public Works. If you go on the Department of Public Works in the town
It's
website.
easier just to ask you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But I'm telling you for future reference, I believe in empowerment. I came up in that age when we were trying to get
Delegating,
empowered.
I thought it was.
So I like to tell people how to do it. Okay. I was getting a new website, commission motivated, its material. You got an unnecessary apostrophe in its.
The
It's
review
ITS without an
for
apostrophe.
its material.
Yeah.
Okay.
And their organization was.
Adele, I've got one comment on voting up about,
Go ahead.
A-N-D-R-E-S. No, that was the guy's
I
last
think
name.
I was voted as vice.
Oh, yeah, that's
I just
left
know
out,
any
yeah.
changes to
Okay.
I nominated Charles as vice chair, and he was voted, again unanimously. I understand the purport of your last paragraph. I don't think that was quite what was said. I think, you know how to say it better, Jane was pointing out that as an advisory committee, we don't have any budget, so we can't hire anybody for anything. And also, if we want to ask a staff person, which would in this case be Jane, since she staffs the committee, we'd have to have, you know, decide what it is we want done and then ask Jane if she could do it. So it isn't that we can't engage a municipal employee, we can't engage anybody. We don't have any money.
This is,
So
No,
we're not a hiring body, which is what we'll get into when we go over the chart. So let's see, is there a way quickly that we can put our heads to it to revise that paragraph? It's also noted that in
the
looking for
committee needs
outside.
to recognize we
yeah.
have no budget
Yeah,
for,
well, it's also noticed that in looking for outside resources to help on committee projects, the committee cannot hire anyone, and when asking a staff person for assistance, should have a well-defined project. Okay? Is that all right with everybody?
Sure.
And then, Suzanne, these will get sent to us, and then when I get around to filing it, or you'll file it with the clerk?
Let's, have a conversation after the meeting, okay? Because it's you, me, and Suzanne,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, she won't be here.
Oh, that's right.
But we'll have the discussion at some point.
You have to approve your minutes before you
Yeah,
get them to the
yeah.
clerk. So
It's-
you
it's
have-
not-
You have another week, month.
No,
to-
Yeah.
Jane, that's not there's something else that has to be taken care of that I have yet to figure out with respect to these minutes. Okay, wastewater, water construction status, slight delay in permitting due to dangerous spirits of toad.
Yeah, we ended up talking about permitting things, and I didn't write down what yeah, if you think that things should be added in this part.
Oh, well, I think, Jane was talking about was the permitting that is needed for the next phases of the
Okay.
municipal water system.
All right.
And one of the things, is, they have to worry about endangered species, historical sites, all those sorts of things.
Okay.
So apparently one area had a spadefoot toad. Okay. You might want to add I guess we didn't give it at the meeting, the site for the video. I can send it to you, it's June 21st. So it would be video on demand, the Board of Selectmen's meeting on June 21st, 2007.
So do you want me to add the date to the minutes?
Yeah, and just to find it, you'd have to go under Board of Selectmen's meetings and then pick 6/21/17, which is the date.
So I will go and make these edits, and then we'll approve them?
No, what we normally do, assuming everybody is comfortable with that, is approve the minutes as amended.
I was going to ask if you'd accept a motion for that, because Suzanne's taken
Yeah.
good
So
notes.
you would not have to bring them back to the committee.
Okay, I just have to amend it.
Yeah.
So will you accept the motion?
Well, normally the way I don't accept the motion, that's not the way, that may be Robert's Rules of Order. We don't exactly follow Robert's rules. So you make a motion, somebody seconds it, and then we vote on it. So you've made a motion to
I'll
accept
second
the
the
minute
motion.
as
Okay,
amended.
well, okay, the motion was to accept the minutes as amended.
And you're seconding it?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have to vote. Aye.
Aye.
We will
Aye.
vote. So, since you haven't done this before, I will tell you that you have to write down who made the motion, who seconded it, and
What
the
vote-
names of the people, yeah, what the motion was, and the names of the people who approved. Okay?
And I apparently can't vote because I haven't been sworn in.
Oh, that's right, you can't, so Suzanne can't vote, so it's five votes, zip, okay? All righty. Let me close Outlook, and then we won't get any of those little flashes anymore. Called Why I Hate Working with the Track, which I don't usually do. This further over. Oh. I guess that's as far as I can go. Now I got a little one slack. Okay. So, Charles, Windmill Weekend.
Windmill Weekend, all right. I have applied for, and I believe I have secured a space for a table on Windmill Weekend, and I believe that is, what is it, something like the 10th and the 11th of September? It's that weekend.
Yeah.
And what I normally do is have a table, either a 6-footer or a 7-footer. And I have available a number of different documents that relate to what we've been doing for the past 2 or 3 years. And I also have a copy of the big groundwater contour map that I think you've seen here. It's, something like 3 feet by 42 inches. And I have gotten a fresh copy from the Cape Cod Commission. The last one got a little wet at the last windmill weekend. And the overall gain that I have is in having a table there on both Saturday and Sunday is I get to see how knowledgeable the various people who come to Windmill Weekend are on the subject of water. Yeah. So I get a sense of how much we, as members of the committee, know and what everyone else is tracking on. I also, I'll go in any direction with what anybody wants to talk with. And the fact that I've been on the committee for the last, 5, 6 years or so is, gives me that depth. I've been very lucky. I think I picked up Scott is joining the committee just by talking to people and explaining what we do and asking them if they have a further interest. So it is a good connection that way. Let's see, in terms of what documents I'm going to have there this year, well, I guess I should say it's Saturday and Sunday. It's 10 in the morning till 4 p.m. both days. It thins out pretty much by about 3 o'clock on Sunday, but
Charles, it's the 9th and the 10th.
the 9th and the 10th. Okay, there we go. Let's see, so I'll have a paper copy of the 208 plan that the Cape Cod Commission produced. It's about an inch thick, and if people want to go in the direction of talking about the 208 effort, that allows me to do that. There is a year later kind of a preliminary document that's about 3/8 of an inch thick that basically talks about how the various information would be gathered to see if they are tracking on the original plan. And I picked that up as a handout copy a year or two ago and going to, I guess, maybe it was one of the first, One Cape conferences that the Cape Cod Commission put on. So that it's a little bit of an update. I normally have a copy of our annual report, a word copy, but it's the same that went into the 2016 report. And if people want to get a sense just by reading as to the different things we get into. And let's see, what I am kind of amazed at how many different directions people would like to take things. I guess I might say is that I had a fairly long conversation last year with one of the abutters for Minister Schoolhouse Pond. And that wasn't encouraging to me because that person was up to date on the information and knew what the next thing coming on was. And so I'm pleased when there are folks out there also helping move the water issue in the town. So I think that's about it.
Okay.
Charles?
I just wanted to add a couple of things.
Go ahead.
That may be relevant. I'm going to do a handout on the municipal water system website as sort of a key to people as where to go for information, that sort of thing. And if I still have it, I'll print again that sign I made a year or two ago about where the website that was displayed there. And I wanted to suggest that other members of the committee consider joining Charles, at least for a half an hour. I think it's useful. also in your role as committee members, to get a sense of what people are concerned about in town that falls within the purview of this committee, and dialogue with them. Maybe recruitment would be helped by seeing some of the other people on the committee as well as Charles. So people don't think they have to be an engineer or they have to have been doing this for X number of years. We got some pretty new people here who are participating. So I will, I haven't figured out my schedule yet because I have house guests and I don't know if they're leaving Friday or Saturday. But I will be there at some point, which I'll let you know, Charles, when I'm coming. So just think about it. I mean, even if you can only drop by for half an hour, I think it would be useful. And you could just, maybe let Charles know so we didn't end up with everybody there at the same time. So, okay, Mary Lou, you had a question.
Oh, I was going to say sort of the same thing, but my question was, when you say you're going to have a copy, you're not planning to hand people copies of these lengthy reports. You're going to have one copy to look at, right?
Display copy.
So it would be helpful if we had a document, it seems to me, to have the links where those documents could be obtained. I don't know whether you could easily add that to what you're doing, or...
Okay, Charles would have to give me a list of what documents, I mean, I didn't write it down. So if you want to send me a list of, I don't want you to read it to me now, I want you to send me a list of what documents you're going to have there available, and I can add that to the, maybe I'll need a second page, I don't know, but I'll add that on.
It would be really nice to have a fact sheet, but that takes a little while to work up. Why don't we think about that for next year? But I think it's really a good idea to acquaint people with the availability of these reports. But most people want something short and sweet, a page or less.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to focus in on what are the key things that we want to tell them, which is one reason that I'm going to do something on the municipal water system webpage, because I am amazed at how many times I talk to people I know who are generally knowledgeable people who think they're abreast of things, and they don't know. Like when I tell them they can go on and look up their street name and find out when they're going to get water on their street. It's a big surprise to them. It's like they've never looked at this website at all. And I think it's important to get that information out there. And which leads me to something that's not on the agenda, but I'm talking municipal water. A little item that was in the Cape Codder for August 4th. Eastham's municipal water system has been named a Public Works Project of the Year by the American Public Works Association in the Small Cities, Rural Communities Environment categories. The team of winners includes the town, Robert B. Auer as the primary contractor, and Environmental Partners Group Incorporated as the primary consultant. So I think that's quite a kudo for way out here on the Outer Cape for the folks who put our water system together to be lauded as
That just makes me so sad that we don't have a webmaster, because if we did, there'd be a big banner right on the homepage of the
agree.
website saying that.
all those things.
Maybe we could make a banner even for the,
Well, I will include this in
That we
in the
can.
handout that I'll do, so, but I think it's, that's quite a kudo, Public Works Project of the Year, so.
Agreed.
Here we are in the Outer Cape. Okay, Charles, you want to tell us a little bit about the presentation at the Eastham Part-Time Residents Association meeting?
Yes. The Eastham Part-Time Residents Association has two meetings for their members at the Elks Club each summer. And for the past 2 or 3 summers, I've gone and had a display table and documents similar to what I said for a Windmill Weekend. And so I was there on 15 July was their first meeting. And there, I guess I counted about 150 people there, members of EPTRA, and at the at the main table, sitting up in front, we had the president of the taxpayers group, a person by the name of Helen Kinsman, and we also had Jackie Beebe, our town administrator. We had some folks from the zoning board, and I guess there was Paul Lag. And it really was a very nice passing through on all of the big topics that are going on in town. So they talked a little bit about municipal water. They did talk about the proposed affordable housing.
Charles, could we focus on your presentation?
In pretty good depth. I did not speak.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted you to get a little sense
Okay.
of what was going on there. So it brings all these folks up to date. My value in going there is when I pass out documents, and I normally find really about, say, 5% of the group wants to have a conversation with me on a particular topic they're thinking of. And and it also is a way for me to contact a group of people that I otherwise don't contact, because I'm a full-time resident here, and I moved here when I retired. So I do get a sensing of what the group thinks is important. And one of the facts that they announced is that they said that they thought 61% of the residents are non-resident homes here in Eastham. The number I had been using for a number of years was 55%, but basically from the town, folks did not correct them, and they announced 61%. So that's a pretty big number.
Wait, so a non-resident, they're part-time residents in non-resident homes?
No, it's, okay, here's the evolution. Years ago, when we first bought a house in Eastham, the association was called the Eastham Non-Resident Association.
Taxpayers
No,
Association.
Non-Resident Taxpayers
Taxpayers
Association. And then there was some issues came up about their ability to speak at town meeting. Anyway, it was decided by the association as a political matter that politically, they had better status, and I agree with them, if they referred to themselves as Eastham Part-Time Taxpayers,
Okay.
Part-Time Residents Taxpayers Association. So it was to take away the non, but in the
Make it sound
legal
better.
sense,
Didn't change
that is
anything.
what they are. They are non-residents, because you can only have one legal residence, and your legal residence generally is where you live for somewhere over 6 months of the year. So anybody who does not actually live in Eastham for 6 months plus is legally a non-resident of Eastham.
Yeah,
But
and-
they call their association the part-time residents,
So
which is
what's the
fine.
61%?
Is
Yeah.
that there's 61% of the people
Yes.
owning homes here and paying taxes do not live here for at least 6 months plus.
Or don't call themselves residents. It's kind of arbitrary, actually.
Well, it's
the-
not if the state catches you.
I know the six months, what if you're in four different places? You have to define the one you legally.
Yeah, well,
make
if you
as
live no
residence.
place for 6 months, that's a different situation. But if you're,
And-
for example, if you live here for 6.5 months and go to Florida for 5.5 months, you're a
Oh, I
Massachusetts
understand.
resident.
Oh, no, I understand that one, and. that
Okay,
makes
all
it-
right, I think we've exhausted that topic.
All right, let's see, I have for my own purposes a list of documents that I have on the table, because I normally go to.
Okay, instead of reading them out, because I don't think the clerk is going to write them all down, why don't you send us all an email with the
Okay.
list in them,
All
okay?
right, all right.
And then we'll all know what was there. Okay, next item would be Jane, if she was here. Okay, well, I have another news note, which I don't know if Jane was going to cover this or not, but I had occasion to contact Neil about the Park Street runoff, and we are making progress. a land survey of the area of Park Street, establishing the town ownership of the necessary land for installation of the drainage stormwater collection system has been completed. The necessary land for installation being that pad at the bottom, which is where the water runs into the,
So land acquisition has been completed, you're
no,
saying?
land, it's a land survey. Park Street had to be surveyed first to deal with the question of ownership. Did the town own it, or was it a private road? Park Street is a private way, but by the time it gets to the bottom, to the landing, that is owned by the town. So that land survey establishes that the town can go ahead with the work. I got into the beginning of my conversation with Neil Jane, since you weren't here, so I don't know if you were gonna do this too, but, so the land survey is finished. Ryder and Wilcox has been retained for the design work of the system, and they've done some preliminary work, and the expectation is that the engineering work can probably be completed by early fall. Cost of the improvements might require capital funding, which would raise questions about whether the funds are available now, or if it has to be included in the budget for FY, I wrote 18, but FY 19, because this is FY 18. So, which would somewhat delay when the actual work could be done, but at least we are moving forward.
So you anticipate acquisition by fall?
No, not acquisition. We own the land, but what was done was a survey. To establish ownership, it had to be surveyed. What they anticipate is that the completion of the design work of this, I gotta look at it every time to get it right, drainage stormwater collection system, that work will be completed by early fall. And once the work is completed, then you have a firm cost estimate. And once you have the cost estimate, then you can move forward on the question of funding. So that is nice, so that at least will be taken care of. So we are speedier than the state of Massachusetts, that's for sure. Okay, Jane.
Okay, so I'm gonna, we had actually, I'll pass these around. We had a letter come in from a couple of abutters of Schoolhouse Ministers Pond, so I wrote them a response. And so just to let you know, and people at home, what we are doing at Schoolhouse Ministers Pond, this is just a real quick summary, but we have had an aquatic vegetation water quality survey conducted by Solitude in June of this year. We expect the final report in September, October. That was the agreed-upon timeframe. They're very busy in the summer, and obviously, so they're kind of staff-limited, but thought that would all work because we would have more data at that time. The second activity that goes on weekly is testing the, it's somewhat of a public swimming area. That same location at the end of Park Street is tested weekly for E. coli. All of those test results have been within acceptable limits, and there is a link if anyone is interested in bathing water quality, both in fresh and salt water. You can go to our website and go look under town departments, health, and then I believe it's bathing beaches, and that's the link that I provided. Additionally, we do 2 sets of water quality analysis, which includes dissolved oxygen, different nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, and so forth. We do a round in the spring, which has already been conducted. Those samples are analyzed by the Provincetown Center for Coastal Studies. And a second round is done in September, and those samples are tested for mostly the same profile, but those are sent to SMAS under the PALS program, the Ponds in Lake Stewart's program. I think that's what it stands for.
Ponds and lakes, yeah.
Okay. That
Who
is,
got- I'm sorry. Finish your sentence.
and so those samples are sent to UMass Dartmouth, the School of Marine Science and Applied Technologies. So the reason we use two different labs is, well, first of all, the SMAS analysis is provided to us free from UMass. That is sort of an extension of the PALS program that was initiated by the Cape Cod Commission more than a decade ago now. So Provincetown Center for Coastal Studies is used by us because they actually give us faster turnaround time, and they've been a very good partner in keeping our costs down, and they're more convenient. So it's a sort of a logistics thing. It's not really a,
Who does that sampling in April?
our pond volunteers.
Oh, so the same people who do the summer sampling?
Well, no,
necessarily.
No?
not necessarily. Some of us are premier volunteers.
Oh, you have, I see. You have a different set.
Yeah, I think with the
Yeah.
So it's not actually PALS, it's another group of
Well,
volunteers. that
it's-
does-
we
It may
have-
be some PALS
The
people,
people
but,
who do the lakes are not necessarily the same people that do the saltwater, but some of our volunteers do both.
okay.
The profiles are similar but different. Jump in, trained volunteers, and give us your insider information. The lakes are deeper, so there's a lot more, it's a little more involved in terms of the numbers of readings you have to take with, with the samplers and so forth. But
You have to do is a cylinder.
yeah, you have to use a Niskin although Charles, because
Does
Salt
it, Salt
Pond
Pond.
happens to be a deep site, they use that all the time. Whereas the other MEP sample sites we have are pretty shallow. So you can either use, as the Lewises do in their two sites, they do a grab sampler that's on sort of an extension pole, but some of our shallow sites, they just scoop. So, you don't have to make it more complicated than it has to be. But there's a variety of ways to do it. However, the ponds program, Sandy Bain has really had full leadership of that. And I think, I'm trying to ease her burden a little bit and assist her. So we are actually now just going over the logistics, but I'll get into that in a second. So anyway, going on with my correspondence to
Jane,
Naomi.
Do all the swimming beaches get tested? Fresh and summer?
We have many, not every single one. They have to have, the criteria for our testing them is they have to have public access. So really, we're supposed to be testing what falls under the definition of public bathing beach. We broaden it because the state will allow us to do so. We test some areas that I wouldn't call them bathing beaches, but like that landing, for instance, I don't think it's.
My dog used to swim
Okay.
there.
Used to.
I think it's a
Is he
valuable.
still alive?
I think it's
Not that
valuable,
one,
so, as
unfortunately.
long as they will continue to assist us, So you can see, there's, I couldn't name them all off the top of my head, but the list is there. And you just look under the town of Eastham. Third activity in Schoolhouse Ministers Pond was the water quality we just talked about. And the fourth is part of the whole watershed analysis that we're trying to put together, and that included stormwater sampling. So that was done last month, June 24th. We took stormwater samples from both the drainage outlet to Salt Pond and also to Schoolhouse Ministers Pond. So.
Route 6. You're talking about the stormwater runoff
Yeah,
from Route 6.
those are the
yeah.
two stormwater samples we took, and actually Salt Pond had two pipes that we sampled. One is actually from a drainage wetland across the road, and then the actual drainage from the highway system itself. So we've got a lot of this data back, and the end result is aquatic, the Solitude will give us some guidance on their findings. And then I'm going to send all the data to Liz Moran at Ecologic so she can, really consolidate it and give us a sort of a peer review of what we're getting from Solitude. So, it does take some time, but I think we are moving forward, and we certainly have most of this already done. So that's, I did want to get back to them because it was a thoughtful letter that they sent, and it sort of puts us in perspective.
And I told Neil that I would write to the president about his work, his work on the other side, and let them know that there's progress being
Oh,
made
okay,
there,
yeah, I
too.
didn't include that.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, I didn't know until I talked to him.
Other things, I'm just going to pass this out because many of you, and thank you all for helping with the MEP sampling. I just thought you'd want to know what the results are so far. So Carolyn Kennedy from Orleans put this table together. I added our Eastham data, except Scott, I didn't have your data sheets because they went directly to Chatham. So I don't have yours, but I'll add them. Carolyn's going to send them to me. So you can see that, we're only halfway through the year, but this work is all very important, and, we've been very lucky on the sample dates, the weather being cooperative, so we've got 2 more to go, and as you can see, certainly there's evidence in Town Cove and also in Salt Pond that there are some issues with low dissolved oxygen. So, there was it was kind of unusual, and I'll let Charles speak to that from his experience, but on 729, the dissolved oxygen on the bottom of Salt Pond was actually higher than typically we see it, but that was a very windy condition, just subsequent to that testing. Isn't that correct, Charles? The weather pattern was a little cooler than normal, and it was windy. It seemed like there was more, it was a little off your typical
Yeah,
reading.
it was quite unusual.
Yeah.
And I can't put my finger on the big difference, but that's what it was.
Yep. So that work is going on, and we continue to cooperate on that partnership with Orleans, and we're halfway through, and in a year and a half from now, we'll have a complete data set, which we can go back and look at the model and recalibrate and see how that may or may not have changed from more than 10 years ago when the original work was done.
That's from the MEP levels, yeah.
Right.
Please excuse me.
And I did want to report too on Malls Pond. I didn't make many copies, but we had a citizen report what he was concerned about, evidence of a blue-green algae. And I did, in working with the
I saw this.
conservation, this
Jeff
is a
needs
terrible picture, and they sent in such a good picture. But we did go out there, investigated, and had it, I brought a sample out to the county lab, and there was a blue-green algae present, and some of the blue-green algae was of the variety that possibly could release the toxin that is harmful, potentially harmful. So we did utilize Code Red to isolate a geographic area whereby if you're signed up to that system, you got either a phone call or a text message, or I think there's another option as well. Just sort of reading this statement that there was a potentially harmful algal bloom identified, and we've actually been going there almost every day, trying to visually just assess it. It does look to me like it's dying off. But, there was actually an article on the front page of the Cape Cod Times. This is not unique to Eastham. We are identifying this algae in many ponds throughout Cape Cod. Obviously, the temperature, nutrient conditions, and so forth in some situations are just, prime for this to happen. And we have had an occurrence in this particular pond identified in 2012. So we definitely advise people not to allow their pets to swim in the water. Obviously, they ingest the water, and it can be harmful to pets and also to children. But we did not close the pond to all recreational activities. But certainly, you know, we are trying to educate and put it up on our website, and we put it under news and announcements. So we tried to reach as wide of an audience as we possibly could, not to be, you know, overly alarmed, but on the other hand, just to be cautiously aware.
Funny,
So-
I know I saw it, and I thought I must have seen it on your website, but I don't see it now. That, what you just passed around, gave to Jeff.
Yeah, I look under news and announcements on the front page.
Oh, okay.
And this
Maybe
is
too
in,
far
in
along.
your department, on the health department website?
I think, I asked my assistant to put it on,
I,
but I'm not
I
sure if
saw
she
it.
did.
You sent out the email.
The email was
And then
under.
you referred to where it
okay.
was.
Is it,
For some reason.
so like
that
on
is
the
what-
very front page? No, that's my website. Did she put it there as well?
This information, message sent
Well,
on
I
Code
think it's
Red,
on
is
the
that it?
right-hand side, the upper part of the town website.
Yeah,
Oh, that's on the
Oh,
town,
you wanna go
on the
back
yeah,
town
the
website.
front
website.
page
Okay.
That's
of
the
the town
town
website.
website.
And then go under news and announcements.
Over to the right, off the screen.
Yeah, you gotta go over there, up in the corner.
Won't let me
Can
off
you
this
slide
page.
over?
For some strange reason, it won't
See-
let me get off this page.
See
I
your
don't know
little
why.
slide bar? Go slide over.
There we go. Okay.
So Moss Pond is the little one that
Yeah, right
has
there.
no
See it?
access
Yeah.
to
Yes,
regular roads.
there's really no public access. I believe I walked down a private right away.
That's the
There's-
announcement,
It's
but all right, well, I guess
Fairview
we can't.
Ave, so if you go
There
Alston
was
to
a place where I
Fairview
saw the
Ave,
picture.
Yeah,
there's a
I-
little, it's back in there. It's really only accessed by
There's
private
Alston.
residences. But people do,
Doesn't, yeah.
it's,
You see
it's
Alston
it's
and-
healthy ecosystem, but it is, there's a
But
lot of
it
aquatic
doesn't
plants and
border on any
Here's
roads.
the
invasives and
landfill
so
here,
forth.
the transfer station.
I can't get the picture for whatever reasons. I know I saw it, but in any case,
Moss Pond, algae,
yeah,
okay.
but that's the announcement. It's not the picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
It's on there
anyway.
someplace.
yeah, so that's kind of that.
Okay.
And then the third, I guess my third and last thing to report on is the progress on my grant, my PRB grant. We've really gathered a lot of data. We're continuing to try to expand the amount of data to really do a very detailed hydrogeological characterization of that entire watershed. So actually, as of today, and I'm going to have to leave because I'm trying to connect with the Cape Cod Commission. They're supposed to go out and try to bring a portable pump and test the viability of the existing monitoring wells that were installed by the USGS in 2005. If those are able to be sampled, it's going to save us an incredible amount of effort and money. And so.
Jane,
those-
this watershed would be defined as which one?
It's part of the Nauset Harbor system, but it's the Salt Pond
Okay.
sub-watershed, as it's identified. And that is the one that we are prioritizing to try to develop a pilot project to implement.
Right.
And so that's, I know that you have the
Now, that's for the,
technical memo.
yeah, that's for the PRB?
Yes, yes, but it's not just for the PRB that we're doing the characterization, it's really to try to figure out what are all the sources. We're really trying to get to nitrogen allocation, to try to figure out where are all the nutrients coming from, and how do we, in a multifaceted approach, just cut away at the load going into that really restricted salt pond terminal estuary. So we are including the stormwater and so forth. We,
A question about surface runoff, is that, the nitrogen contained in that, is that primarily fertilizers?
It's a combination, and, I mean, it depends where it's coming from and how effective your stormwater system is at, capturing the first flush. And then none of this existing old stormwater systems did bioremediation. So there's, you have to quantify, and that was exactly what we're getting at in terms of trying to do the stormwater sampling. We're trying to quantify how much load is coming in. Stormwater sampling is tricky, however, particularly when you're adjacent to a water body that's subject to high tide. So sometimes that whole stormwater system is submerged underwater. So you have to catch it at the right tide cycle after a rain event and hope that it was a significant rain event. It's also, it's a lot of subjective parts to it. So,
But these wells, basically what you're saying, could serve many purposes. They could not only tell you what's coming through in terms of, but the sources of those nutrients. The monitoring wells.
the monitoring wells are two different things. So the
Okay.
stormwater system is what drains the
Yeah, that,
water
no.
off the road and goes into, it's
Yeah,
discharged into Salt Pond and Schoolhouse Ministers
Yeah.
Pond. So those are two separate
Yeah.
stormwater systems. The monitoring wells that I'm talking about were part of a study that was done many years ago to characterize, to really do a couple of things that we're trying to do as well. They were trying to determine how much load their septic system on the Salt Pond Visitor Site was discharging.
Okay.
And they were trying to intercept that plume, and they were also trying to intercept the landfill plume. How successful they were in doing those activities is a little tricky to determine. But that's what we're trying to piece together, so we're gonna go out and try to, that's what we're revisiting. The information, unfortunately, we're getting back from USGS is not complete. We have many of the reports, but a lot of the data we would like to see is actually not there, so it's a little complicated. That's okay, we're revisiting the site and hopefully gonna retest the wells. We have a joint team consultant meeting with Cape Cod National Seashore staff September 6th. So what we're hoping to do is before the PRB project is complete, before we write up the report, I want an opportunity to have a roundtable discussion with the seashore about our findings. I've asked them to bring to the table data on the septic system performance, which they've been monitoring more regularly than they had been in the past, with recognition that they are now aware that it is not optimal performance-wise, and that we need to make improvements. So I'm hoping to bring this all together and make some headway, and if it involves my trying to coordinate assistance to do some upgrades, I will do whatever it takes to get that done under my ability. So, and I think they have the same objective. So I'm inviting George Hoyfelder to come along with me, and somebody from the commission. So I'm hoping it's, we all have the same goal. And I think at that time, if we can just sit down and look at all the data and then determine what's feasible and rational approach, hopefully we'll avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems if there's something that's just a non-starter for them. So,
A non-starter for the seashore, for the
yeah,
Cape Cod?
they have,
Yeah.
it is a very sensitive site. And there's just a lot that we have to know about permitting approvals and what their process is and how to get this done. And we would like their agreement on site location, and, you know, we need to cooperate. They occupy 1/3 of the town of Eastham. They're a very large presence here. And, you know, they're our partners in trying to keep this place as beautiful as it is, so, you know.
But
it's-
they are the federal government, and
They
we're
are.
town and state.
Right, they are sovereign, they do not have to, that's why I don't get the reports on their system. They're not responsible to report to me, or to, they're sovereign. But they are still our partners, and evidence enough, they're taking one of our MEP sampling sites. Their research team has taken that on, and to me, that's really significant. You know, they're a partner with us in this program, so, you know, so I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
May I just compliment you on that presentation you did on water quality workshop? It was a really gorgeous PowerPoint.
Good.
Very informative. The kind of thing I think that the general public would find very useful and able to deal with. I sort of did them side by side, your presentation and the technical memo, which, as Adele pointed out, was a tough slog. I could do it, but I wouldn't have done it unless I had a reason to.
You're talking about
Well,
TM3, right?
that's, yeah,
Yeah, it's not easy reading.
yeah, but you know, that's,
Look through it.
But the presentation's
yeah,
easy viewing,
that's-
and I think that's just really
it's
good.
written in English, you can read it.
Yeah, well, and just to comment on that, thank you. And Mike is so great about putting a lot of these meetings on, you
Yeah.
know, to video.
Yeah.
Because it can reach a wider audience, and, you know, people don't have time to attend meetings, so if they're interested, you can point them in that direction. It's a big resource for us. But also, the way we decided to go with the technical memos was really short and not so sweet. But short, sciencey jargon, to the point, not a big, long, huge narrative. And so, yes, it is tough. It is not easy reading for anybody, but we
When
did
you
it.
read it the third time, it all comes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, so, you know, but
No, it's not. You have, there's a lot of stuff you have to keep in your head as you're going, but
yeah, and it's, you know, the general public is not gonna read
Oh,
a
no,
document like that at all. I mean, there's probably 20 people on planet Earth that have read the whole thing, so, you know, you're
And
among a
6 of them
select
are
group.
sitting around this
You're
table.
You're among a select group of people. But, anyway,
And probably they're probably, you know, you come across people in town who have sort of water-related backgrounds, they might read it, who knows?
right.
But I think it's useful because it increases our understanding of what it is we're dealing with, so.
I agree.
Okay, so we're,
Adele, I got a question to Jane.
Yep.
The newsletter, would that be ready, you think, by Windmill Weekend?
I don't think so, this is my
I mean,
understanding.
it's just a question of, should I chase after it before I go to the weekend?
It's probably not gonna be done.
Not there, okay.
I did receive comments, and I'm just like so
Yeah.
stretched right now. I really want it to be good, and
Yeah, I think that it's hitting the nail on the head is more important than getting it out
yeah,
quickly.
and so that's really mostly my fault for not carrying through with
Well,
that.
no,
But
there's some
every time I
others.
go to start trying to work on it, I don't know, something else happens, so it's been,
I am behind also
Who does-
because I owe you comments, which I haven't gotten to yet.
Who does the newsletter go to?
it will go to the general public. So it's like a tri-fold brochure or I don't know, we haven't even decided on that, like what format. I don't know if you saw the other newsletter that they did, but it's really trying to be a synthesis of that technical work effort, you know, that kind of points us to where we're going next to the public.
Well, I guess what I have is a question. If the newsletter itself is not going to be ready, would it be valuable for the Water Management Committee to do a sign-up sheet to receive the newsletter at Windmill Weekend? What I'm wondering is how you get your list for sending it out.
Oh, it's not done yet. We're still working on it. The team, the review committee that was advising and giving comments on it, had a lot of comments. We
Okay.
had a lot of comments. We weren't, I don't think anyone was
Yeah.
really satisfied with it.
Okay, well, I'm not focusing on the content of the newsletter itself. I'm focusing on who gets it and how do they sign up to get it.
Oh, well, we'll probably try a variety of things. We always bring it to, like, town meeting, we would put it on in all of our public buildings, anytime there's a
There'll be a
meeting.
notice, yeah.
Yeah.
I also, I know it hasn't been done before, but I think, and I'll be making this suggestion if the committee agrees, that the amount of money the town has put into this, it might make sense for them to mail it. I mean, the mailing costs in comparison to the money that's been spent to produce it, it's like our brochure. We spent the money to print it, and then we had problems distributing it. It just, to me, it's always seemed like a pound-wise, or penny-wise, pound foolish.
Okay, but the
No.
marketer in me says to get people to sign up for it and say whether they'll accept it by email or whether they want mail. Because a lot of us prefer email these days, and it's dirt cheap as opposed to mailing it. So plan to do both, but get people's preferences and
We
know
certainly
that
can
they're
have a
likely to be
sign-up
the
sheet,
cheaper
and then we could
option.
say, we may be able to provide it to you if you'd like it, sign up. I don't want us to make any commitments at this point, because we don't know what we're going to be doing.
Would you
So that's
prefer to
fair.
get it?
Yeah, if it,
It's a various
yeah,
ways
when
of
it's
saying it,
available.
that you're
Well,
not
and I
making a
mean,
contract.
Using resources like our website under news and announcement,
Yeah.
if we had it posted, that is a pretty big audience. So it's,
There's ano-
your suggestions will be helpful, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
always, been,
You know,
what's the best way to do it, and things are changing.
yeah,
They are
another
changing.
thing, because I know just from talking to people, that an awful lot of people look at Channel 18. You can do a banner on the bottom.
And Mike is very good about
Yeah.
doing that as well.
That's a good way to let people know.
Yeah.
But also, the people who come to the website, I suspect, are one group of people. The people who come to Windmill Weekend are a whole other group.
Yeah, I mean, that
in
would
one
be a
case.
perfect opportunity to hand it out, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But
would be
again,
great.
Mary
Do
Lou,
a
Channel
sign-up
18 is
list
not the
there.
website, it's the public television channel. And I know, lots of people I know look at Channel 18. They don't look at the website, obviously, from the questions they ask me, but they do look at Channel 18. It's a way, if you have some interest in the town, you check in, see what's going on.
Well, could
I was
I,
advised we're gonna have a special town meeting, so we'll definitely have it ready for that.
Well, that's true.
So that's a
true.
good opportunity. The
Yeah.
transfer station, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
A lot of people
lots
go
of
to the
people.
transfer station. So you try to just,
could I
Okay.
draft a sign-up sheet and circulate it to everybody, including you, and see if you want to use it at Windmill Weekend as a test?
it's not ready, the web, the.
Oh, no.
the-
Okay.
All I'm doing is asking people, do they want to
Oh.
get it when it's ready?
Oh, perfect, sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep,
Great, good
yep,
idea.
no,
Very
The,
good
the
idea.
only thing you have to commit to is do you have
Okay, we have one
somebody to
technical
add-
problem.
to add those
Excuse
names
me,
to an email?
excuse me, we have one technical problem. We do not meet again before Windmill Weekend.
Yeah.
And as a committee, we cannot take action outside of. So if you want to volunteer to draft it and provide it to Jane for her okay, and then give it to Charles, but we cannot as a committee vote
do
on
it.
it.
Okay.
Before Windmill Weekend.
Will you look at it and see
Okay.
if you want to,
Absolutely.
you just have to recognize that you have to have somebody who will enter the mailing addresses and the email
We
addresses.
could do that.
Okay,
Okay,
then we're cool.
all right, let's go. We're on to you, Jeff.
Okay, I was asked to explore and bring back to this commission information on IA systems, how they work, why are they important to us. And rather than doing a PowerPoint projection, I typed everything up, and you can look at it at your leisure, and
Thank you.
I won't take a lot of time. I would probably like to read it, however, Adele, if
Yeah,
you agreed, and
I was hoping we could have some discussion of it, so I don't know how
Of course,
fast people
I just, you steer the
get a
train.
hold of it.
Okay, innovative alternative septic systems in Eastham. With the advent of indoor plumbing in the late 19th century, it was also necessary to deal with the attendant wastewater. An early septic system had been developed in France and became adopted in the U.S. in the 1880s. Household waste was discharged to a cesspool or perforated tank. The waste contained naturally occurring bacteria which broke down the solids and removed pathogens. The holes in the cesspool wall allowed the wastewater to percolate into the surrounding soil. Later, a sealed tank that drained to a leach field was added to aid in digestion of the waste and dispersal to the soil. This effective design has been in use with little change ever since. And at the back of the presentation, there's a picture of a septic system and drain field. The septic tank is on the left side of the drawing, and it's a two-compartment tank. However, a lot of them are just single compartments. There's usually a distribution box between these tanks and this absorption field or leach field to the right. And what that does is simply divide the outflow of the second stage of the tank, and it goes out into multiple pipes to disperse the waste into the leach field. Okay. With increased residential and commercial growth in the area, problems began to appear. Pollution of the groundwater in the form of nitrogen, phosphorus, pharmaceuticals, and certain household chemicals occurred, which affected estuaries, ponds, and marshes with choking plant and algae growth threatening human and wildlife health. Since household waste is the major contributor to the abundance of nutrients in the groundwater, averaging 70 to 80% of the nitrogen source on the Cape, that's a pretty important number. Beginning in the 1970s, scientists began to work on more effective septic systems or innovative alternative designs, which would reduce the discharge of nutrients into the groundwater. These systems operate in much the same way as a municipal treatment plant, but in miniature scale, adaptable for residential use. Typically, these advanced systems have an aeration chamber pushing air, oxygen, through the liquid, providing the oxygen-hungry bacteria an opportunity to digest the waste more effectively than a Tidal V system. Tidal V system is what we currently are using. And that drawing of an IA system is the last page of this document. You can see there's a septic tank on the left, but what you've added between that septic tank and the leach field is this aeration chamber where you're pumping in air. And this is pretty much a typical IA system. There are many proprietary suppliers of these. They've been around a long time. And they inject the air and oxygen into the waste. I'll mention George Heufelder's system in a moment, which is an entirely different approach. Okay. This process allows for a more complete digestion of waste, allowing the use of a smaller area for the leach field. Also, this approach aids in nitrogen reduction through the nitrification and denitrification process, releasing nitrogen as a harmless gas. I didn't want to get into the biochemical reactions actually occurring, but just to suffice it to say that nitrification and denitrification is the process that this is then reduced to a more harmless discharge. These aerobic systems, meaning air injected, cost from $10,000 to $20,000 compared to a Tidal V system costing from $6,000 to $12,000. If an existing septic tank and leach field are available, this is now if you want to modify your existing system with an IA system. If an existing septic tank and leach field are available, the cost of an IA system comes down considerably. These systems require monitoring and maintenance on a periodic basis, which increases cost. It has been demonstrated that housing clusters of a few hundred houses have been able to avail themselves of this treatment approach, eliminating the need for extensive sewering and treatment centers. This might have some application to Eastham's unique layout. Interestingly, at last count, Eastham has 192 such advanced septic systems in use provided by 15 proprietary vendors. The drivers for these systems are, for the most part, the ability of the homeowner to support a larger house population on a small lot due to increased efficiency, also cross-contamination of well-supplied potable water, or a failed system in an environmentally sensitive area. These are other reasons that you might go to an IA system. Of the three contaminants I mentioned, nitrogen is the biggest problem for saltwater estuaries, but fortunately, IA systems do a fairly good job of nitrogen removal. A Title V system will remove approximately 30% of nitrogen, whereas an IA system will remove 50% of the nitrogen 77% of the time. Now, that's a little confusing. The 77% number comes as a result of many different systems operating at differing levels of efficiency, caused by either poor servicing or design. Work is ongoing to develop ways of dealing with phosphorus and chemicals of emerging concern, pharmaceuticals, etc. An IA project overseen by George Heufelder, Health Director for Barnstable County's Massachusetts Alternative Septic System Test Center, employs a sawdust and sand mix below the leach field in order to bring down nitrogen levels to those achieved with other IA systems. The carbon in the sawdust allows for the nitrification and denitrification of the nitrate-producing nitrogen gas as a harmless byproduct. Due to the fact that a pressure distribution method is also used in a shallow leach field, a more complete breakdown of waste occurs than in a Title V system. This approach is about 2 years away from approval and would be cheaper and simpler than proprietary IA systems. This overview does not explore peripheral matters of implementation, a political one, homeowner use of products that may impact groundwater, i.e. Fertilizers, composting toilets, which are, our toilets are one of the major sources of nitrogen, and composting toilets would eliminate that. Surface runoff or other helpful technologies, permeable reactive barriers. It appears that nitrogen pollution of the saltwater estuaries is of greatest concern, and I expect agencies will be focusing near-term on ways of improving the health of these areas. Okay, any questions? I did, by the way, run this by George Heufelder, who, along with you, Jane, were major sources of my education on these systems. And I was wanting to be sure that my numbers were reasonable and accurate, and so George did go through this.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, super.
Very good.
Wow.
Is this the type of system they have like at Brackett Landing?
I believe so. That's a collection of houses there that is using an efficient
Okay.
system.
I mean, I knew they had something different from what I got in my house, but, because I saw them putting it in at one point.
Yeah, the one, if, just for your information, the system that we have at Brackett Landing is a community system. All of the flow from all of those houses within that subdivision work, the septic flows by gravity into, it's actually two systems combined together. The first component is a Septitech nitrifier. It works to take the ammonia, add oxygen to it, and nitrify all the waste, so then it's then passed into a second treatment chamber, which is Nitrex. It's similar, it's the same technology that George is trying to do in a passive mode. But in this case, the Septitech first unit passes the treated effluent into the second chamber where the Nitrex or the wood chips are there, providing that real high degree of carbon, because you need carbon, you need a lot of different chemicals in the right combination to get denitrification to occur. And then finally what they do is pass the secondarily treated effluent, recirculate it back up to the septic tank, and that even further, augments the process and releases nitrogen gas into the atmosphere, and therefore the nitrogen is taken out of the equation in terms of the effluent. So it's a really good system. And in that particular case, we were very lucky that there was another system going in the town of Mashpee at the time. This was piloted by Pio Lombardo. And they used, their first treatment chain was not Septitech. They used a different type of system, but from the installation of that system, it was decided that we would go with a sort of a little bit of a switch on the theme, and it's worked very well. And so George is really trying to do the same type of an approach in just a gravity, no pumps, no prioritize, no investment by a manufacturing company in this. This would just be educate the installers on how to layer the sand and strata so that when the effluent passes through, it gets denitrified. And with that carbon there, it seems to really do the trick, and it's pretty sustainable. So, that's the system we have.
His system is really significantly cheaper than the proprietary systems. All you're really doing is adding an 18-inch layer of wood chips and sand below a present leach field. You've got to excavate it, of course, put this down, but you're talking about a few $1,000s to achieve the same result.
How about maintenance?
That was a
It's
question.
amazing how long they anticipate his system would last. He's talking 70 years.
When you think about it, when you're out in the water and you see wood underwater, and you think like, wow, those logs have been down there for a long time. When there's no air, it almost fossilizes. So that was the first question I asked, because when I saw them dumping all the wood chips in, I'm like, how are we gonna get these wood chips out? And they said, well, they thought it was gonna last for, 10 to 20 years, or depending on flow, but depending on a lot of factors, but I'm not aware of,
The PRBs use wood chips too, don't they? I mean,
Well-
most.
Let's stay on this topic for now, okay?
Yeah.
Let's get the questions on this. What I understand from what you're saying then, Georgia's system would eliminate the need for monitoring, which is one of the factors in the individual IA systems. That they set up requirements that they have to be tested frequently, et cetera. And the only way, in fact, in the technical memo 3, when they talked about them, they indicated that going in that direction would mean an increase in staff, basically, because to make certain that they were operating properly and that they were doing the testing, as now I know from the Board of Health that sometimes they don't do the testing they're supposed to do. So that then but Georgia's system would not, you wouldn't have that. I mean, once you have it in the
Moving parts.
ground, it's going to work,
well,
right?
down the road. It depends on, for what, initially, monitoring will be required, because you want to have proof of concept. You want to have, and also.
Is that monitoring of the installation as opposed to the operation?
When he's out piloting these systems, what he's gonna do is divide the leaching field basically into 2 parts. And, to try to compare and contrast how well, what your numbers are coming through an unsawdust leach field. What are the numbers coming? And you test and you compare. So that is gonna give the nitrogen credit component. So if we use this, for instance, as part of our targeted watershed approach in areas where a cluster system or, maybe this is the most cost-effective way to reduce nitrogen. So, we somehow, as a community, finance this. You would have to monitor if you're regulatorily bound to reach a threshold and so forth for a period of time. But just as most things, if you've proven concept,
What would you be monitoring? I mean,
the effluent coming post-treatment,
okay, so you'd have to capture that.
you'd have
Yes,
to do.
and you would use a bathtub liner, so to speak. Is that right, Jane?
Yeah, in
And
the
then
test
collect
models.
Okay.
So in his
But in
test,
a home use, once it's proved and accepted, you
right,
wouldn't need
once it's
this.
granted, the permits are granted and the conditions are granted, maybe you would have to, just like Board of Health, we have ability to vary monitoring requirements once it's proven. So if you've successfully said, I tested 4 times this year, 4 times last year, everything looks great, okay, reduce it to reduce the cost. So same thing.
Because that is a big problem with the individual IAs,
Yeah.
the continued cost of operation and then the monitoring. And then if we're relying on it, it's one thing, I mean, enough when people are putting it in for their own purpose, but when it's being put in primarily for the purpose that of protecting the town waters, then we have a very strong interest in making certain that it is in fact operating properly.
Right, it's,
Or else we're right
it's
back where
really-
we started.
it's really very different from what the Board of Health's charge has really been focused on. The board has been, in the past, focused on public health protection and requiring IA systems to protect the inhabitants from exposure to cross-circuiting of wastewater with private drinking wells. Now, our charge under our environmental requirements is to reduce the nutrient flow going into the water bodies, not public health, for environmental purposes. So Adele's, spot on that it's different, but monitoring will need to be done, and that's why regionally, the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative in the county, Barnstable County, has received matching funds to not only test local estuaries, but outside in all of Cape Cod Bay and Nantucket Sound, because those numbers are going to really be very critically important when, to be able to prove, you're successful in doing reduction, so.
Scott, did you have a question about the IAs, or? Because if not, I was going to let Scott ask his question about the PRBs.
Go ahead, but yeah, I
No,
do
it's
have a
just-
question for Jane.
It was just, it sounded like the PRBs, usually, they have other things too. It depends on what chemical they're trying to prevent. In the case of nitrogen, I think they usually fill the trenches with wood chips. Is that right?
I'm not an expert on this, but we're starting to learn from our own experience. There are different ways, different permeable reactive barriers. There are different materials. There can be basically vegetable oil or, wood chips. It depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. So we have, as part of our project team for the PRB, a gentleman who's working with other towns on the Cape, Jim Bigley, and MT Environmental is his company, working with Falmouth and Orleans. And so he's going to bring us his expertise in what's gone right and what's gone wrong in those two communities, and help us to try to identify what we can do here. And it seems that trenching, it's just so disruptive, and it's with wood chips. Yes, it's the same engineering principle, but you can do injection wells that are far less disruptive to the land surface.
I'm sorry.
You know what I mean?
I know, it wasn't excluding injection
Yeah, so
wells.
a permeable reactive barrier is sort of generic, like a window, you can put anything in them that intercepts a nutrient plume and reacts with it.
Well, the idea with the injection wells is they're supposed to be close enough together, they intersect each other, right?
Yeah,
when
you have,
do
that's
the
why
fill.
the first thing you have to do
So,
in
build a
in
hole.
developing a site potential is to do this real in-depth hydrogeology, to know where exactly, I just call it the sweet spot, because that's what you're looking for, just like in baseball, you get the whole big bat, but you need to hit it right on the head to make it effectively work. So that's, you need to find out where is the nutrient-enriched depth, and is, your other point, is it in the right form that this type of an approach, chemical form, that it would be productive. It has to be in the right form. It has to be in nitrate. It can't be in another ammonia or nitrite. You need to
Jane?
nitrify it
But
first.
that's how you get the hybrid scenario, say so many feet of PRBs. So basically, if you were using injection wells, as Scott said, you'd have to have injection wells, or sort of contiguous, so that's how you get the footage.
That, I run, I'm not the expert, but that's Jim. Jim has done different types.
Okay.
And they figure it out mathematically.
But that's the general concept
It
anyway.
is the general
Yeah,
concept.
okay.
That thing you were having us read, the TM3.
Three, yeah.
I think they talked about a barrier between Schoolhouse Pond and Salt Pond. It was 2,300 feet long or something, wasn't it?
Well, it's conceptual.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
that's a
Where would
conceptual
you put it?
approach based on tools that are part of what are given to us, provided by the Cape Cod Commission and some of their modeling, computer modeling. So that's just conceptual. Right now, we're boots on the ground truthing what we know about the watershed. That's number one. And then we go into an implementation type mode. That's where I'm hoping to take us sooner rather than later. And just focus in on this one little big problem. And, try to install something and then, again, monitor. So they call it adaptive management. You put something in, you see how well it works, but, that is the approach. But the volume and like that is all a little beyond my scope.
And the other thing, I keep hearing about nitrogen, but wasn't phosphorus a problem going into the ponds?
Phosphorus, yeah, phosphorus is like
I
the,
really, I do want to try and stick to the agenda. No, it's not yours. Yes, and we will be discussing ponds at some point, but, and what we're going to do about them, and what we have done. But let's get on with the discussion of the committee charge, okay? Okay. And this brought up part by some questions that came to me. So I thought perhaps it might be good if we all, this, by the way, comes from the Water Management Committee webpage. It's at the bottom of the webpage. And I asked you all to read it beforehand, but give you a minute or so to refresh your memory.
I noticed the date on this, Adele, this document was produced, yeah, there it is. Okay. It was revised then?
I believe it was revised. I'm not totally familiar with the history of this committee, but basically there was another committee before this, and then there were two committees, and then they were joined together to form one committee, and I think that happened in 2008, and that's when this charge was written. Probably written by the committee, then submitted to the Board of Selectmen for their approval. But the charges are basically, they are adopted by the Board of Selectmen, so that basically, that's the committee's charge unless and until they seek or the Board of Selectmen on itself initiates a change.
Okay, so we don't really influence, well, we could, I suppose, influence the charge, but this is what they have specified
No,
for us.
we don't influence the charge. This is our charge. And if we think that the charge is too limited, or we think we could suggest to the Board of Selectmen a change, but we would have to tell them why we think that change is warranted, and what it is we think we could do to be of more service than we are being now.
So you and Charles are the senior, and Jane, senior members of this committee. What is your
No,
reaction?
we
to
don't
it?
have any senior members one way or the
Well,
other.
you've been here longer.
Yeah. Oh, I see, you mean, longest serving,
That's
okay.
right, that's what I mean. So you
Longest
are in the
service.
best position to say this is reasonable?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. As Jane points out, we are what is called an advisory committee. The town has two kinds of committees, commissions, whichever, they go back and forth on the language. Regulatory bodies and advisory bodies. The regulatory bodies basically flow out of state law, which sets up certain responsibilities for the towns to carry out, like the Conservation Commission, that works to implement the state's wetlands protection law, the Zoning Board of Appeals, which works to implement the state's zoning requirements, the Board of Health, obviously, the state's requirements, and then, these are then, the towns themselves come out with bylaws on these issues, and the regulatory bodies then go ahead and act. And they do have, as the name suggests, regulatory authority. They can write regulations, et cetera, and they can, depending upon the nature of their, what they're managing, they can have rulings in individual cases, both the Board of Health, the Conservation Committee, well, the Zoning Board of Appeals are all bodies in which individuals would come before them for one reason or another, and then the board would rule on that. And as the other difference between us and them, they have a budget, they have some money to do things, we are an advisory committee. Our function is to provide advice to the Board of Selectmen on certain areas. And if you read the charge, and I think, there's generally a general format in charges. There's a general statement at the beginning, and then there's a more specific statement at the end. And I think, since I've been on the committee anyway, there has been some confusion as to the relationship of these things and just exactly what the charge means. I'll tell you how I read it. That we are to provide advice on issues related to groundwater, wastewater, and freshwater systems, and advice for planning for things. Well, obviously, public water we've now got. But this isn't just advice out of nowhere, but this is advice based on work that we have done in these 4 areas, that we have looked at experiences in other communities with regard to these issues, and from that have learned something that we think the town might do differently, do better, et cetera, something that we want to convey to the Board of Selectmen. The compilation of the working library, that's obviously you can get information from that. Research current and evolving innovative methods of treatment and/or disposal of wastewater, and identify specific tasks and expertise necessary. So the whole idea, let me just finish. The whole idea is that we would be undertaking some work, some thought work of our own. From this thought work, we come up with ideas that we think we want to say to the selectmen, how about doing this? And we, in fact, after the pond action plan, which Ecologic did, the question then was, where do we start? What ponds should we start with? And they had a ranking and everything. I mean, it wasn't too hard to figure out what ponds we should start with. But nonetheless, this committee came up with 3 priorities: Herring, Schoolhouse Minister, and Great. And then we recommended to the Board of Selectmen that those be the first 3 ponds we would address and that sort of thing. So that was, we were giving advice to the Board of Selectmen as to how to proceed. So, your question.
I think you may have answered one of my questions, and that is, the activities that we embark upon are
Yeah.
generated from within our own committee. It's rare that the selectmen come back to us and say, we think there's a problem over here, we want you guys to investigate and come back to us. That doesn't happen, right?
It does happen.
Oh, it does.
And that is the genesis of the other plan, which is called the Pond Water Quality Protection Plan, I think is the name. It's hard to keep these. That is a plan that this committee drafted in cooperation with the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health. And that resulted from the Board of Selectmen asking us to take the lead in, I forget exactly the wording of the letter, but basically in enunciating or setting forth an approach of how to deal with the problems in the ponds. The Pond Action Plan established what the problems were. And now the Board of Selectmen were saying, well, how should we proceed? What steps should we take in order to deal with this and that sort of thing? So that was when they asked us for something to be done.
Okay.
And that could be
So
done
it
again.
works both ways. We
Yeah,
can generate projects, they can generate projects.
right, right.
9 members,
Yes, well, we would love to have 9 members.
but that's still, it's still,
That is in the charter. There's nothing that can be done about that without changing the charter. I don't mean this charter, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not
This
saying
is our
it's-
charge.
I'm not
It's
saying
it's in the town charter.
I'm not saying it's too many or too few, it's just that we're short.
Oh, yes, and we have been for
Always have
years.
been. Okay.
I don't think there's been 9 members. I think there were 8 when I joined.
And a quorum is,
A quorum, and again, this is set by the town charter, a quorum is the majority of what is the full complement of the committee. So since the full complement would be 9, our quorum is 5, although we only
Counting
have
the
6
chair.
members. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, otherwise we'd really be in trouble. But, so that's it, that's the quorum. So one of the reasons I wanted to call your attention to this is I'm hopeful that in the next, as we proceed on in this, in months, we could begin to think about things, about what we could do in terms of projects. For example, on municipal water, clearly, they don't need a lot of help from us on planning for that anymore. That's been done. Though this committee was very involved when that was a topic to be, still up in the public and at various town meetings. We provided information and that sort of thing to help educate the public about what was involved. But now, we could look, is there advice we could offer about operating the systems based on what other towns have done? Could we be putting out, I'm going to do this little, one-pager for Windmill Weekend about where to find information about the municipal water system. But could we be doing some public information about the system? Similar to what we did basically when people were saying, why should we have water? We developed a fact sheet on all the reasons why it was a good idea to have it distributed. Well, now there are issues that I see on various not websites, Facebook pages and stuff, some of which I must admit, I only get third hand through my husband. I limit the number of Facebook pages that I will sign up on. But you see issues raised there about, well, what kind of monitoring do they do? Well, what kind of chemicals do they have in the water? Well, what kind, so I think possibly we could make a contribution by developing a fact sheet on that. Now, obviously, that's something we would develop and work through, and then we would obviously have to run it past the people who are operating the system to make certain. And we'd probably have to ask them some questions to begin with to get it done. We've got this pond water quality protection plan. We really haven't looked at it since we finalized it in what is now, I think, 2014. I refreshed myself on all this as I worked through the webpage. Should we be taking a look at that and seeing is there updates to the plan? Yeah.
I was just going to add a little history on this committee. It once was called the Water Monitoring Quality Committee, WQMP, Water Quality Monitoring Committee. And the initial charge was testing, the largest charge was testing wells. This committee actually had some not certified equipment, but they were doing sampling at events like Windmill Weekend so people could get information on water quality. So there, obviously there was a shift in leadership of that group over time, but Carl Weiss was the chair for many years, and he would actually consolidate the data and do an analysis with the committee. And when I came on board, there was sort of a desire for them to wean off of that effort. It's labor intensive, they had to staff it, they had to coordinate analysis and so forth. So they wanted to have the town engaged in a more systematic program. And that's when we developed the idea of sending the vials out to 3 different areas of town. at that time, Carl and I also talked with the county about a trend analysis. We did a 10-year trend analysis. We picked specific wells in certain areas. So this was all data that was used to support the need for a water system. And town water didn't happen first time out. We went through many heartache meetings and so forth, but we were trying, me as a scientist all along was, my job was to put together the data and have that out there as information for people to make informed decisions. So this committee was really involved in that analysis in years past. Also, at that time, there was a need to look at wastewater. So the same committee was looking at wastewater, and then it was decided it would be two committees. The work was very redundant, because both committees had interests in, and so that's when the two joined together. So, other projects that this committee has been, really involved in was the leadership. Sandy Bain was a member of this committee for many years, and she, well, even before that, she really was the coordinator of the pond volunteer effort, and still is. And, so I see that as another role that, it's not easy coordinating any sampling effort. There's a lot to it, and so she's been doing that. Someone might have an interest in taking over for her. She's been doing it for many years, and she really deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and I know Sandy is interested in wrapping up her
Yeah.
responsibility for that.
And there were other things I was thinking of this committee's done and that had real, so there are so many, it is such a multifaceted, you can.
Would you say that historically, though, that the activities of this committee really were internally generated, that the selectmen generally don't really think that much about
I would say
the water
yes.
people meeting down in the
I
basement?
think, well, the idea was this group was trying to gather and build information to further understand, and I think you're still doing the same thing. It's just times, are a little bit different. And, initially encourage people to test their water so we know, so now, but keep in mind, that is still a current issue for this town and will be for
A long time
for a
ago.
long, long
Right.
time, if not forever. People can keep their wells. So we need to continue to educate around water testing and protection of ponds and protection of drinking water. So all of those things are, there's so many ways that an advisory committee can be effective. And I think it's, times present different challenges, so.
Another thought I had, and these are just miscellaneous thoughts, obviously, they could be probably a lot more, and they could be, it's taking on, individual responsibility, splitting up, monitoring the Orleans projects that have direct relevance to us, like the shellfish and the PRBs, and I mean really closely tracking the data instead of like sort of a general, but what are they really finding out, and what is, and especially after reading Technical Memorandum 3 again, to what extent are the conditions in which they're testing, particularly in the shellfish, are they comparable to what we would be looking at? So that there's work to be done, and I guess my question is the committee willing to commit to doing this work as individuals? Because it's not something that I'm not looking for a full-time job. I gave that up a few years ago, more than a few years ago. And so if we're going to go down this road, people are going to have to say yes. And I just think if you're here and, if this is what you're interested in, this is what makes it interesting. I mean, even the web pages sometimes it was a nuisance, but yet maybe it's just the way my mind works. It was interesting to see what was there, to actually dig behind some of the things that were hard to find and see what was there and suddenly discover something that didn't seem to be anyplace else. A complete copy of the final, not the the March, the final interim needs assessment, which their executive summaries identified otherwise, but hidden in a no subject folder is actually the complete report. Why it's there that way, I don't know. But so I think there are, it's interesting, and if we want to do this, I think at future meetings, we can put our heads into identifying, and I don't see us all working on the same thing, because I think in the long run, I have never found working by committee. Committees, yes, can do things, but I mean, doing an actual job by committee, I think, becomes very difficult. I think it seems to work best when you have identified somebody who, if nothing else, is at least the leader and has the responsibility for seeing that things are getting done. So it would, and even in some cases, an individual could just take on a topic and say, and say,
I like
okay,
that,
so I'll
Adele.
follow this
I like
topic.
that idea of keeping in touch with what other people are up to. I think Charles has been good about that. But, down on Long Island, they have very similar soil to ours, dealing with the same problems. How are they solving those problems?
Yep.
Rather than reinventing the wheel, we should take advantage of what others have already found out.
But that requires just not knowing that, they did this. You'd have to know they did this under these circumstances with these parameters, because as you saw when you read Technical Memorandum 3, there's a lot you need to know about when something is done, to know, is it transferable to you?
Of course.
So, so this is, so can I get some sense? Are people interested in this? Is it worthwhile trying to develop more?
You've echoed a lot of the things that I've been thinking about as I went through the website initially and looked to see what was there. It's, as I used to tell my students, there's a lot of things we could do. What should we do? And being very concerned about a small group of people taking on, there's so much good stuff we could and should be doing. We're going to have to set our priorities and be very careful about what we choose to do in order to do it well. And I think you're also right that one person, I love websites. I know that sounds very strange to some people, but I eat, drink, and breathe websites. So I'm delighted to work on that aspect of it, and I'll help other things. But we just, I think, have to be really careful. We don't have a lot of resources.
Anybody else?
Okay. When I read the charge to the committee, I noted that we're talking a lot about estuaries in this committee now, but it is not specifically stated in here. Now, there's
Well, we're talking about wastewater and estuaries.
let's see, we make the pond, protect the water quality of our ponds. And one would think, well, there's no estuary word there at that point, which is the way the document is structured now. But it is true that basically the driver for what we're doing in Nauset Harbor, Nauset Marsh, Salt Pond, is the estuary water quality.
Don't you think that's covered under number 4, which says comply with Mass DEP TMDL
Water and
regulations?
wastewater management, yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
the driver.
Okay, no problems. I'm not saying, I think when this document was written, the folks probably would have said estuary, because it's a helpful focusing word.
Charles, could I ask, what is your point? Are you saying we shouldn't be doing any work on the estuaries?
No.
Okay,
No, I'm just saying the document doesn't have the word estuary in it.
okay, but it does have
And-
wastewater in it.
And one of the items on our list here is to review the TM3,
Yep,
and TM3 talks all about estuaries.
that's right, and it talks about the wastewater and the estuaries. I'm not concerned about that. I don't know, is anyone else on the committee concerned about it?
the word estuary is not included?
Yeah.
Okay.
That we are reviewing TM3?
Please don't understand me. I'm not advancing the idea that it should be added. I'm just saying it's not there, and it has a little bit to do with the fact that it's an older document.
Well, it does have a rather general term, protect the water resources. I think our estuaries are water resources. I believe I've seen them referred to in that way.
Charles, where I'm going, you're right, you know, it's not there, and it certainly could be added.
Let's drop the subject.
No.
You're taking it in a way that I didn't mean it to say. I have one other point. If you ask the question, how do we annually inform the Board of Selectmen? I took that to be the annual report. So,
Yeah.
okay, and does everybody else take it to be an annual report or some type of a presentation?
What are you pointing to in the
Okay, Board of Selectmen annually
shall
shall,
consist of 9,
the board, and that's actually, I think they're making a mistake. They should have said committee. The committee shall annually report the progress to the Board of Selectmen. At that time, the board shall make implementation recommendations for further, to protect the
oh,
water quality.
at the very bottom, okay.
Okay, I have taken that to mean the annual report,
Yeah,
and I've never been challenged on that.
The board is the committee?
That's a misword. That's the way I read that.
yeah, it's just a
They meant-
typo. They meant to say the committee, that's, you
They
know.
said board, which makes it sound
It's
like
a
the
space
board is
of people.
telling the board something.
People were not going over this like the Constitution, I don't think. They didn't have as many drafting sessions.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was probably written by the committee itself, and, you know, they probably went through various iterations, and by the time they got to the last one, it was, let's be done with it.
But I think the important point is not the specificity of each word, but where
Yeah.
are we going as a body,
That's right.
right?
Right. I think, you know, certainly what the charge gives you is the general sense of what is expected of this committee and what the committee can do. I mean, the scope of its authorization, so to speak. And I think that's what's important to understand, what it can do and what it can't do. You know, so that's, okay, and I see we're just about out of time.
I've got a couple of other points I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
Is it okay? All right, when we were talking about Jeff's IAs, to me, the way to distinguish between what George Hoyfelter has come up with and all of the other technologies that improve a septic system is that basically you're going to have to use energy to pump air into the liquid, and which means that there's going to have to be electricity, for the most part, connected to the septic system, or there's going to be an air pump in the basement with the discharge tube out in the septic system. To me, that's the practical way of seeing the level of difference between those two systems. And basically, if you look at the pictures.
You meant the other systems, not his.
No, if you look at, if you look at Jeff's diagram, okay, the picture. The picture that he first provided us with, septic system and drain field. Okay, that's what essentially we have today. Okay, however, if you go to an IA, when you see these circular arrows in here, there's air being pumped in there. And that's basically enhancing the system and making it treat things to a higher level. So, to me, the difference is that, well,
We're saying, the difference between this classic systems and the IA or the IA and George's thing, Mr. Shalfo? Which difference are you talking about?
okay, well, yeah. It's possible that if George's sawdust layering system is in fact causes the regulators to change the way the rules are written and it causes them to accept Georgia's technology as an acceptable regulatory technology. Okay, that's one path. But if, if we want to improve any of the septic systems that are just not energized now, it probably means we're going to have to pump air, and we need a source of the power that pumps air in.
George's system also needs to put air?
No.
Although he does have a.
That's what my question I've been trying to ask you was.
Yeah, no, the way,
These people, Charles, they did talk about the energy consumption of pumping the air. Our system only takes so many hours a day and consuming so many kilowatts. In other words, they did address that. There's some people are more efficient than others in that respect. But there is an energy
Regular, yeah.
consumption in these IA systems.
But George's does
Except
not.
George is not, that's right.
Yeah.
Although he does have a pressure distribution system in his leach field, which would consume some energy.
yeah. And
So is the point, Charles, that basically Georgia's system has yet another plus in that it saves this energy expense? Okay.
Yeah, that's a true statement.
Okay.
But again, George is trying to do work that will generate data that he can take to the regulators to then get his technology accepted.
Right.
There's one other big plus to George's system. His is a system that will be available to everyone. It won't be patentable, that.
Yeah, I know, it's a non-proprietary system, so that
So
makes it
that's
much
going to
more
be a
available.
cost saving
Yeah.
right there.
I'd like to sort of jump ahead to something because we're
I-
running out of time.
Can I have a minute?
A minute, yes.
Okay. It's my understanding that the town has established a new committee, and it's the Shellfish and Waterways Committee. They've done that in the last month, and they have in fact appointed a number of people by name to be on that committee. All right. Now, to me, the sense of that is that it would be a committee in the town that has not existed exactly kind of in that title, that could then coordinate with Orleans, because Orleans has a standing Shellfish and Waterways committee. And to me, that's good, because that fits into the aquaculture discussions that we're coming along with, which is one of the non-traditional technologies that appears in TM3, Technical Memo 3, talking about salt pond. So I'm encouraged by that. And initially, when I sort of looked at the two organizations, in other words, how does Orleans go ahead with aquaculture with their staff, and how does Eastham deal with that? I think the technical people were connected, but I don't think there was a sort of a public aspect of it, which would then be present in a committee, now that we have the committee. So I'd like to go to a couple of those meetings and get a sense of what the folks are talking about and how it might touch in Technical Memo 3.
Well, that's,
So-
you do that, you know, that's, any member of the public in town, in or out of town, can go to any meeting, Charles, so certainly you can go to those meetings if you're interested in going. I think probably to get a good sense of what we can expect the committee to be doing, you might want to also look at their charge. I know about the committee, but I haven't really looked into what it is they've been asked to do. But we can.
Okay, no, that's all I had to say.
Okay, so we could jump ahead to this, which is totally out of order, except it's something that I would like some help with before the next meeting. There is let me see, I'll first go here. I'm sorry, I'm going to hold you over probably about 10 minutes to get this done. I aim to finish these meetings by 4 o'clock, but sometimes one doesn't actually get where you aim to go. But, okay. This folder, and it does say NERDS assessment. If you click on that, you go over to here, and it says, no subject. Now, you might think that means there's nothing there, but that isn't what it means.
That's how I first interpreted
You
it.
go over here, and you go, no subject. And then you say, oh, that's interesting. What is this no subject? Well, finally, you get here, These I wasn't able to open. I don't know if these are like what I get with my photographs,
You must
those
be on my
thumbs
computer,
database.
Adele.
Huh?
You must be on my computer.
Well, no, when I clicked on this, it said thumbs database, and I know I get those with my photographs, and I just ignore them, so
Those
I
are
was.
system files. They shouldn't
Yeah.
even be posted.
Yeah, that's what I figured, so I just ignored them, I didn't follow. But here, you get in there, and lo and behold, there's actually some documents in there. And this is about when we wrote to the Department of Environmental Protection in 2008 about when we were first proceeding with a comprehensive wastewater management plan. And then there are documents behind that. Okay. So I want to, that was to show you what the problem is. So, Mary Lou pointed out, how can you keep track as you click through of what you're doing? So I did something very, very quick and dirty, which is basically to take the, I forget what they call that alphabetical thing of, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, et cetera. And I assigned another designation. Now admittedly, it's only in this paper, it's not, I can't get it on the website, to each one of those folders. But, and then obviously, as I went through, I had to, keep a sense of what I was doing, take some notes to make certain I was tracking down what it was. And this is, for example, what I found in the first two folders under Nerds 1, these two things, and then these things
Whoever posted
about
this.
build out and all of this, okay. At this point, I stopped. No, I didn't stop because I don't think it has to be done, but I figured, okay, I've done enough to provide an example of what I did. I am beginning to guess, based on what I saw in the next folder, that what's down here is going to be more of these figures from the final interim needs assessment. Because when I looked at the second folder, which was supposed to be oh, it's the next page. Oh, okay.
See, and this is the problem. You can't keep track of where you've been to know
No,
where you
I
want to
ca- I could-
go
I
with
kept
this.
track of
I mean,
where I was.
You found a way.
Yeah.
But you had to do something outside the website in order to do that.
Oh, yeah, but, that's,
That's a lot.
that's,
I know.
that's often what one has to do in life. Okay, I wrote it up on the top here. This thing, this second no subject, turned out, when I opened it up, to be the final interim needs assessment report, volume 1, the whole thing. Now, further up on the website, or further down on the website, there'll be that says, it refers to the final interim needs assessment, but it's actually only the executive summary. So this is the only place where there is the whole report. So, which leads me to two questions, which one I will ask a computer-based question. I assume, and this is on there the way another document is on there, it's a jumble. It's not even in order. It's not chapter 1, chapter 2. It'll be chapter 3, chapter 5, chapter 1, every which way. I'm assuming this can be downloaded from the website and it can be reassembled in proper order. Is that correct?
Yes, if we had anyone to do it. I don't think there's
Well,
any
we
doubt
got-
that it's stored there and we could,
What do you mean by anyone? Someone has to have special skills to do it, or what?
yes. Someone
They
has
also
to have access.
Access to
Yeah.
put it back in.
No, we're not putting anything back in
Who did
yet.
this in the first place?
Reassemble it.
Have to have access to
Reassemble
get
it into a
out.
document so that it can be ready when we're ready to put things back in. We're not,
None of us have a login to get into the website, so we have to,
Why,
somebody
to
has to be able to
download?
get
Yeah,
in.
we can download.
And download it. And once we do that, we
you
can
don't,
play with it.
no, you don't
and
have
make
to have a
report.
login to download.
No.
Vir-
yeah,
virtually
anybody
everything on the
anybody
website can be
You
downloaded.
can't upload into it.
It's a public resource.
Right?
I download things from it all the time.
You're just getting the terms confused, I think.
Okay.
Okay, we can't fool with it, but we could get individual.
You
Okay,
can
you're right.
take
And you can
down
copy
all
it
of
on-
these documents, and then
Copy
you,
it on your computer and play around with it, and then you've got it on your computer.
And then you've
what
got it. You can't
But
put it back
it's-
up.
okay,
You
so
can't put it back up.
I
It's
need a
definitely-
volunteer to do that with this and also with the whatever on the, I don't have the other thing quickly. This other thing up here, let me see. Did I lose it already?
There's
Come
more
on.
than one thing on the website that's posted this way, as
I know,
individual
that's
pieces,
what
not,
I'm getting
not
right
a
back
full
to
report.
here.
I've forgotten what the other one is.
It's the very first document there. Okay. I gotta back up from here. It won't let me do that because I'm too far up already. Oh, shoot. Should be here. Okay. This first document, planning report, is also, as you can see up there, higgledy-piggledy.
No, what's 15?
The wastewater management planning report, June 2009, it's the very first document, okay? And then this thing down here, final NERDS assessment. If you go to no subject number 2, and you come up with the final interim needs assessment. Again, higgledy-piggledy.
Adele, now, okay, how do we
Yeah.
use this information? If we could
What-
straighten
what-
it
what-
out.
what- one thing at a time, okay? So I'm looking for a volunteer to go in, download these two things, and put them in proper order, and have them ready at such time as we are ready to start revising our webpage.
Are these a bunch of Adobe PF files?
I haven't got, I think some of them probably are, where you see Adobe Acrobat.
Probably can't modify them.
Jill, I don't want to make it more complicated, but can you move to the health website? So can you go back and go to the health department tab? I think I have these documents posted on.
You think you have that there?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, what am I doing here?
So you just want to go to the home page
Yeah,
of the
yeah, I
town
gotta get
website.
down here first.
Just went past it.
So go to departments, town departments at the top there,
Yep.
health.
Shoot, come on. Okay.
You can like enlarge it up at the top, next to the X there. There we go.
So where would you have it?
Wastewater. They're there. So there's the 2009 screening analysis, the 2000 and, it-
Okay, is this the whole thing? Okay, all right, so those two are taken care of. So I still have one problem left, which
so
is,
what are you looking for now? So the other ones
it's
are
not
there.
what I'm looking for, because I've got to find out what's there, and I've done part of it, but I don't really particularly want to do it all. I want someone else, or someone else's, it can be more than one person, to take on the task of finding out what's in these other folders under that are under the first NERDS, no subject. You know, they're about, I can't get it down here, come on. It means going through these, we could split them up. Somebody could take Charlie Delta Echo, somebody could take Foxtrot Golf Hotel, somebody could take India Juliet Kilo. I assure you, you don't have to be a computer expert, because I did it. So it can be done.
You want to show me how you got here? I'm in the website now.
Okay.
First of all,
You
you have
just
to go
made my point.
First of all, we have.
No, it's not your point, Mary Lou. You really got to stop with this. It takes simply the ability to count. I counted down 1, 2, 3, 4. As I did it, I noted whether I was dealing with 4 or 5. Yes, it can't all be done by just clicking.
Yeah.
But we lived in a world, all of us, before we could click, and we knew how to do things, and we can still do them. And if we have to use pen and paper.
There's no other way to get it
Yeah,
out.
well, that's
There
right.
absolutely
Yeah,
isn't.
it would be nice if we didn't have to do this, but this is the only way. And it isn't like it's
How come
undiscoverable.
I'm visualizing 3x5 cards?
Well, I don't care, 3x5 cards, pieces of paper, loose leaf paper. I don't care how anybody does it. It's just a
Whoops,
question
I
of doing it.
lost my thing there. Where's the Water Management Committee?
Adele, I would be willing to put some hours in this direction, but I'm going to have to be trained. I'm not tracking too well on what we have on the screen.
Okay, here we go again.
Okay.
The second folder, wastewater proposal studies and reports folder. This thing that has the
Could you
string,
just click?
oh, you want me to go back?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
lost where you were.
Okay,
I'm
here
at
I
this
am.
thing. It says additional links, right.
Okay.
Then when you hit the second one down on the.
It's just
left-
fine, this is,
right,
yes, okay. Maybe the title is a clue that you should expect something to be wrong. Okay, so you see, something says, all right, the second one we can ignore. We know now what's in there. That's the final interim needs assessment. Okay, this first one says no subject. So when you click on no subject, you come to another list of no subjects. When you open one no subject, you find that there are documents in there. Okay, let me see if I can maybe shrink this,
Okay, so
and then I
found
can
this-
put the
so-
document up on the screen at the same time.
Found
Come
that.
on.
Okay, there's two different projects as I've looked at this stuff. One of which is not all that difficult, which is downloading the report chapter by chapter and putting it back into the
All right,
correct
but
order.
we're not going to do that with those two reports, because Jane just pointed out they're on the Board of Health website. So
Are
we're going
those
to
the
link to
same
them.
reports? They're different titles.
No, it's just that it's a shorthand delineation of them. But
Okay, so
those
good.
reports are there, so that's done. Okay, so here we go. Let me get this one up at the same time. Okay, so now this is where we are. Come on.
And my original suggestion, which I'm willing to do, is to go through this carefully in the way Adele is doing it, keeping track and making sure I'm getting everything, and printing out a copy of the end result.
Oh, no,
I
I
think
don't
we
want
have to see
pages.
it.
I don't want to have pages and pages of this stuff. I have nothing I can do with them. So I
But how do we know whether it's even worth keeping if we don't look at it? I don't think we can tell by
well,
title.
once we know what's in there, people can, for example, once I know that these are all figures from the final interim needs report study, I know what it is, and I can tell now Jane has volume 2, so these all come out of volume 2, so I know we don't need those. So there are some judgments I could make if I had the information, but I've done an awful lot of work on this, and I really don't want to continue to do it all by myself. So that's why it's just a case of coming up with a list of items. If we decide we need to print stuff out, fine. My suspicion is we're going to decide we don't need to print it out. Once we see what it is, you'll be able to say, oh, okay, that, I know where that is, that's someplace else. So it's basically, you follow it now, Scott?
Well,
Okay, all right,
yeah.
all right, well, I have,
was following for a little bit. but then
okay,
we got
okay.
off.
I need a wider
I mean,
screen.
this thing says no subject. Now, but you're what?
Okay.
Yeah, what you're looking there, that's not on the website. That's
No,
something
that's
you've
right,
done.
this is my document, okay.
Okay, so that's where
So
I
right
got it.
here, this no subject, You see this over here, the
Yes,
first one?
I got that page right
That's
now.
this one, which I called alpha, okay.
Okay, well,
She went through, opened these unnamed things, and then wrote what was in it.
Yeah.
So that
This-
she could just move through numbers, no
That's
subject number
this.
2. Then she
what
wrote-
is this? Is this this is a?
As
your
I
own-
went through, okay, I'll open
That's
up
her
this.
worksheet.
Wait, yeah, that's my worksheet. I guess
not
what's
on the internet,
confusing
right?
is the
No.
first one only had 2 items in it. When I opened up number 2, it had all of these items in it.
Number 2.
The second, no subject. Okay, let's go back again here, all right. We got in here. You following me? Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Actually, I accidentally closed the,
Okay, all right.
the website when I was trying to back
All
out
right,
of
well, let's,
something.
let's watch on the screen then, Scott, okay? Because you're not going to see anything different on the website. Okay, so here we are, final interim NERDS assessment. The famous no subject files. So here's no subject. So when you go in, it's
Back up to that.
no subject, first folder. That only has 2 items. These are the 2 items. All right. So we're going to go back out of that. We finished with that one. So now we're going to the second folder, no subject. That has, I didn't count them all, but it has this number of items in it. These are the items that are in it. Okay? Do you get what I did?
She's just making a table of contents.
Yeah.
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 I understand that, but I mean, what do we?
But
Yeah,
it's not necessary. So at the end of this exercise, you can say, oh, this is all not necessary to keep
I never knew
dumping.
anyone
But we
that was
don't
so
know.
persistent that would want to
For
open an
example,
empty file.
we probably will end up
But it turns out
storing.
they're not empty, they just say
I
no
know,
subject.
I know, when I hear,
But
when I
no,
see
but-
it's not got anything in it, I don't worry
Okay,
about it. But
okay.
Well,
We
the-
don't know what we can dump until we know
Yeah.
what's
See, where it
there.
says open folder, it doesn't, it would say empty folder if there really was nothing
That's
there.
right.
And then you'd say, why is there a folder? But in any case, so are there people who are willing to take on 3 folders each and just list what their contents are?
I'm happy to do some of it.
All right, so you
Maybe
got-
it's
you've
just
got
being
tr-
a newcomer, but just
Or you-
looking at the
but-
titles means nothing to me. I can
That's-
do it.
that's
and
fine.
See if other people
Yeah,
know what it
we can
means.
figure out what it is. So
Yeah.
you'll do Charlie Delta Echo, okay?
Charlie, tell me that. How does she know what that is?
Because she just counts down.
So,
Scott, you are a computer person. I mean, this is
No,
rather
what we're
amazing.
seeing, you gotta tell me it's the 4th one down or something. You can't just tell me it's some
You're
name
right.
that's in your computer.
It is well, look at the list and you see it's the 4th one down.
Well, that's what I need, not Charlie
There's the
Delta
list.
Echo.
1,
What am I going
2,
to put in the minutes
3,
here?
4, 5. You could say the committee was utterly confused.
Well,
1, 2,
but-
she's
about
doing
what?
3,
About what?
4, and
What's-
5, okay?
Oh, wait a second.
She's
Go-
doing 3, 4, and 5.
On that one over there,
No.
which is what I can see.
close out your table of contents. You're confusing everyone. So just eliminate that.
Well,
That's
just
not
minimize
what you're
it, don't
talking
just-
about. Minimize it. And
But
open-
that's the final product, though, so that's fine. If it's confusing people to see that, fine, but that's what the product is going to have to be that it looks like. In order for us to know what's where and be able to say, that dumps, okay. Are we back to the beginning now?
So Mary is taking no subjects 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Scott, do you want to take no subjects 5, 6, and 7?
5, 4, and 5. You
You
take 6, 7, and 8. She's doing 3, 4, and 5. So it makes it 6, 7, and 8.
No, Town of Eastham, okay.
You'll take 3 more, I'll take 3 more.
Well, Jeff can take some.
You don't know how incompetent I am in this.
All right,
in this
okay,
subject.
all right. All right, I'll do 9, 10, and 11.
I gotta go.
I'd be happy to, but you guys are way
Town
behind me.
departments, board and commissions, okay. I'm trying to see where I can bookmark to get back into the same place.
Well, all you have to do is go to the committee webpage.
Yeah, I'm at boarding, oh, no, here we go, down here.
I think we need your document, though, so we can be sure we're starting at the right place.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll send it to you. I just didn't want to send it out without any explanation. Because
Okay.
even with an
Water-
explanation,
Absolutely not.
obviously,
We
people have a
still
problem.
don't totally understand.
Okay, back to
All right.
water, oh, I'm at, okay, if I go to this page.
If you go
it's
to
called
our page, okay, go down to,
Wait a second, water management, okay, additional links, okay.
Okay.
Wait a second, let me bookmark that before we, how do I?
So the Water Management Committee webpage
yeah.
has confusing files, and we're trying to straighten it out. Is that
That's a
what I'll
nice way
put
of
in the
putting
minutes?
Yeah.
Water Management Committee, okay, so done. Okay, so then from Water Management Committee, I go to additional links, I go to,
Wastewater proposals,
one down.
studies, and
Second one
reports.
down.
Okay? I mean, I could have done a tree, I guess, but,
okay.
And once you get the list, I'm almost positive that I've got everything
Yeah.
on my website, because
Because you've kept up your website, which is something that needs to be considered, is how do we motivate the rest of the committees
But
to
I
do
think,
it?
you mentioned your first meeting, it's an opportunity. I know it's a pain, but it's an opportunity for you to
Okay,
figure out
Scott?
what you want. Yes.
are you with me?
Water Management Committee.
Yeah, I thought the best place to educate myself about what was going on was going to be the committee's webpage. And sadly, it turned
Okay,
out to be
so-
so hard to follow.
And then
So
you-
I hit
It wasn't.
wastewater proposals, and I got to.
Studies and reports. Okay.
Your next one, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm here, I hit the second one down.
So,
Yep.
Jane, when you look at
Say
those,
nerds,
I
because
think
that'll
that's what
make
those
it
are.
clear. Just say nerds assessment. That's the only thing on the page that says,
NRDS.
right, that's the only thing on the page that says that.
SS.
Oh, you've been looking at
Okay,
this for years.
so
I've
that's
been doing
that,
it for
and
2
then
months now.
if I go there,
I mean, I know.
You get no subject. The second
Okay.
one, forget about. We know what's in there, so we don't worry about that anymore.
first one, and then, so the item 4 is no subject, number 1,
Right.
SUB, number 1.
And then you're gonna get a long list of no subjects. I think we just counted them up and what they come
1,
to.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
Okay, so. you
Two are
want-
done. The first two are done.
You did them.
Yeah. So that leaves 9 to be done.
So, okay, which, I see what you did. Which 3 do you want me to do?
Well, Mary Lou's doing 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5, okay. 3,
So you
4,
would do,
5,
you would do
So I do
6,
6,
7, and 8.
to
Charles, you want to do 9, 10, and 11?
7, 8. I
No,
gather
you're
you're not
not-
much of a computer guy, right?
No, okay.
Well, Adele, I want to be in on this, so, yeah,
All right,
I-
do 9, and I'll do 10 and 11, okay?
okay,
All right.
good, yes, ma'am.
So I'll do 10 and 11. And we'll get it done, and then maybe we'll say, well, this was an interesting exercise, but we'll know the answer. I don't like not knowing
Well,
answers.
there's just no other way to do this.
Okay, so I
Okay.
just
So
opened up
basically do
number
it by hand.
7,
Yeah,
and it's got, okay, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I guess I have to go through those 19 and go into it and see what the title is, and
Yeah, and
Copy that back
make a
out
list
again.
of the title. You don't
But I
need,
think
you don't
you'll
need
f-
anything but the title. Don't worry about reading it, just get the
And maybe
title
the date.
listed. Yeah.
Oh, title.
Well, I consider that part of the title, but that's
Except
the
a
way
lot of them-
lawyers are taught.
Yeah,
It's-
if you're
Well,
gonna
maybe
have
you don't
to
have
make
a
up
title if you don't have a
in many
date.
cases, I think.
I mean, I open up this thing, and everything on it, at this page says, just go down to number 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? With the first one? Is that where you are?
No, I don't think you counted the same as I did. Go back one. Okay.
1, 2, 4, 6, 7.
I was saying 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm sorry, One, two, three, four, five. 6 is the first one I'm supposed to be doing, so 6 is the one I have open, sorry.
Yeah, you are 6, 7, and 8.
Okay, and everything there says March 3rd, except for the first thing.
Okay, I think that's all going to be the final interim needs assessment. You know what you could do if you want to cheat? Open the first one and the last one. Well, I have to blow this up in
Oh,
order to
that's
see
the
what it is.
nitrix system. We were just talking about that.
All right, so that's not a good one to be sure, but I'm pretty certain that that's what you're going to find.
So what you, if I find an Adobe statement, which I probably will, what do you want for the title here? Everything here says Town of Eastham. Oh, end barrier MBR, I can't read that either. Yeah, so which one did you open, the second one?
Yeah, I opened the
As soon
second
as
one.
I open it, I actually get a biobarrier MBR, okay.
And you know what you can do?
Is that what we want, biobarrier MBR,
Yeah,
or?
but you know what you can do? And then you find out you don't have to do the rest of it. You can go and look on the,
There's only one page here.
yeah, no, but there are more
I-
as you keep going down. There's one page in each. You can go look on the Board of Health website, and you can see if this is all in the final interim needs
Well, I
assessment.
can tell you what it is, actually, because it's from the Stearns and Wheeler report, and they're just figures. So why they got copied like this, I have no idea. I don't know.
No, my only question is, do they exist someplace else? I'm first dealing with
figures-
very low-level questions.
Right, so if you just open up one, just pick one.
Yeah, I did.
And see how, like, there was a legend, and
Oh, yeah, I can
You
read
see
that on
what I
my
mean?
computer
You could
here. Let's
see-
I need a couple of
see
pluses
how
here.
that's Stearns and Wheeler, that's the most important thing there, is what is in that legend, what does it say?
It
So
says
it
Stearns
says
and Wheeler
Stearns and
Environmental
Wheeler.
Engineering
and it says-
Scientists.
Yeah.
It's got a date of 12/208. That's not a whole date, it's just a
But
month.
it's, those things were posted in
Massachusetts.
March 2009,
And
and
that
I'm
says-
guessing,
Project 61204.
So you know it's a figure from
Yeah.
that report,
yeah,
from Stearns and Wheeler.
it's from the March '09 report. And it also, all you got to
You wouldn't
do,
have to figure that out, just whatever the name
Yeah.
is.
And then-
all right, that's all you need to do. Just get the dates, and the date they have down here that
So
says
there's 19 of
309.
these, I gotta do about 60 of these things. I gotta copy the names over onto some spreadsheet or something.
Just-
Okay.
It didn't take that long. And I'm not a very good typist. I never learned how to type because I was on the academic track and they didn't give us typing classes.
Can't type
So,
No,
I'm
you
a
just
hot
set it
pack.
up so it's easy to keep
They now
track
call it
of.
keyboarding.
is that called keyboarding? Well, I don't do it. I would
Yeah, yeah.
entertain, are we all set then? Everybody knows what they're doing?
Okay,
And
I
and
have,
you're
I
going to
haven't,
send out a copy of your
Yeah,
chart?
I will mail that.
Okay, good,
yeah.
good.
if George and I, no, I'm sorry, if Scott and I get confused about what we're doing, can we talk about it by email or phone?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Because we're not making a decision, we're just
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about how
And
we're
it-
doing
And you're
work.
only two members of the committee. You're not a quorum. At some point, we'll maybe go over the Attorney General's open meeting thing. There seems to be great confusion about that, too. Jeff, could you email your report to people?
Sure.
Because there are people like me who don't keep paper, I mean, I've run out of space for paper
I
documents.
don't have the
My
the
folder.
sketches, you know, I don't have,
If you want, I'll scan the sketches and send them to you.
okay, all right.
Could I just make a closing comment, hopefully closing, that the discussion of the charge today was really, really good and really important in terms of thinking about what we need to do as we move toward a new website.
Okay?
I'll make a comment too. Jeff, that's an excellent summary of AI.
Oh, yes,
Sorry,
I,
what's
That's an excellent summary of AI.
Well, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
I
you did a
understood
better
it with
job
no
than I did on
background,
par-
so
Referendum
I second
barriers.
that.
Okay, I would
What
entertain a
did the-
motion to adjourn.
Where'd the name tags come from? Is that
They're provided by Mike and I
Oh,
think
Mike.
through the assistance of
you?
Carl
So we
Shipman
just leave them
upstairs.
here and he'll.
So we leave
pick-
them.
Adele,
Yeah,
should
I
I,
would entertain a motion to adjourn, yes?
Oh,
should I call
So
you
moved.
tomorrow just
second
to
it.
Second.
get the
Beat you to it.
information
turn
you
it.
were going to give me on
No, I'll
documents?
talk to you right now if you have 2
Okay, all
minutes,
right.
okay? Okay, did somebody make a motion?
I think he's taking.
We made it and seconded it, I think we're ready.
Yep,
You
yep,
made, I seconded.
I made the
And I
motion,
seconded it.
Mary
Okay.
seconded it. So, discussion?
No, there's no discussion that I know. We ready to vote?
Yeah, all in favor?
Okay, everybody wants to adjourn. I'm sorry we ran over. I will attempt in the future to keep us